Good afternoon. Hi, I'm Wendy Wall, and I want to welcome you to our lunch. We're in an acoustically challenged place. So I want to know if you can hear me way over in the other zip code over there. Yes, I'm seeing hands up. Yes? Excellent, excellent. For those who have never been to an SAA before, I want you to know that our lunch is always like this. It's outdoors with palm trees and a pool. So enjoy. I looked at this space and I said, wow. And then I went to the session this morning and Jeffrey Masson taught us that I should say twish. So that's what I'm saying. That's part of the talk. It's going to come in later, the helicopter. From the moment that I was announced as incoming vice president for the SAA 2 years ago, people have ever so helpfully focused my attention on this very esteemed event with comments like, well, I would never agree to stand for election because of, that talk. My then 13-year-old daughter vividly, and I mean vividly, remembers witnessing a flow of people at the New Orleans SAA, stopping by in the lobby to offer congrats and advice. Don't, whatever you do, be overly earnest, one warned. It will sink like a lead balloon. It is a lunch. People do not like to be harangued with self-righteousness. Be funny. Okay, sounded completely reasonable. But then competing wise counsel. Hi, great news about you being elected. Are you nervous about your talk? Voiceover in my head, I am now, Well, whatever you do, don't try to be funny. Don't squander your time when you have a chance to say something meaningful. And it's never really that funny. I mean, well, of course there was Fran Dolan. And then there was that thing with Mario DeGanchi. Oh yeah, and Tim McCallahan had that fabulous elevator story, but come on, we're not all born entertainers. So what's a girl to do? Don't be funny. Don't be earnest. So how about, with apologies to Hamlet, something historical, pastoral, tragical, historical, or tragical, comical, historical, pastoral. So that's what I'm selecting, and here goes. In this year of transition, as the SAA migrates its headquarters from Georgetown to the University of Mississippi, I keep circling back to this fundamental question. What is the place of the SAA? The place of Shakespeare, and more broadly, the place of the humanities today. What is our place when higher education, the humanities, and the arts face really uphill challenges, like declining enrollments, like shrinking job opportunities, like the persistent pressure for universities to emphasize knowledges that are instrumental and marketable, and these all have tremendous effects on our teaching and research. What is our place when I go into universities' planning committees thinking, once more into the breach, but I'm not sure if I'm Henry or Pistol or somebody else? What's our place when the SAA must fight simply to defend the territory we currently inhabit, protesting threats to erode graduate education, close down the NEH, eliminate entire humanities programs, ban scholars from coming to our country to travel to conferences, push more teachers into living in precarity, or deport our students? What's our place when we look at what's going on near and in schools in Parkland, Florida, or Charlottesville, Virginia? The violence and toxic hatred surrounding us seems a step back in time, as well as a world turned upside down. When I was thinking about this talk, I was sitting in my office in Northwestern University. Go Northwestern table. But this is a bad story, so don't clap. And I got an alert that there was an active gunman on campus, and it wasn't a drill. And so I had to hover under my desk in lockdown for an hour and 40 minutes. So where exactly are we when the new normal in our national political discourse is so stunningly surreal that it takes my breath away almost daily? When the media's metabolism runs at lightning speed and public debate has devolved turning on the volume of one's assertion or one's ability to marshal alternative facts. I mean, to me, it's so at odds with what we around this pool deck fundamentally do, which is read critically, sort logic and evidence, attend to the power and complexity of language, examine the social formations through which knowledges are fashioned. So what is our place? I think I would call that the tragic historical part of the talk, so that would be the genre. Well, literally, we are at this moment in the Westin Bonaventure Hotel. So I'll start here. Designed by John Portman and opened in 1976, our current, albeit temporary, sceptered aisle has made an appearance in places as different as Frederick Jameson's postmodernism and the faux rockumentary film This Is Spinal Tap. I don't know what your experience of the SIA has been thus far, but in postmodern geographies, Edward Soja describes the Bonaventure as, quote, fragmented and fragmenting, divertingly packaged, yet curiously incomprehensible, seemingly open and presenting itself to view, but constantly pressing to enclose, compartmentalize, circumscribe, and incarcerate. Everything imaginable appears to be available, but real places are difficult to find. Its pastiche of superficial reflection bewilders coordination. Yes, I thought, entering the hotel, this does register something. Not about the SAA, of course, but about life in 2018. I don't know about you, but in the first day in the hotel, I knew that I had to get on a green elevator to get to my room, and I could see one. I could almost reach out and touch it. I was like Tantalus, but it was marooned in some atrium with no way to get to it. The Bonaventure has actually been featured in films and TV shows that uncannily footnote our current situation. Listen to these titles: Strange Days, Fear Factor, In the Line of Fire, and two perhaps most apropos, True Lies, where a future governor of California rides a horse in the lobby, and the neo-noir sci-fi Alien Nation. YouTube, in fact, offers a montage of movies that obsessively detail the Bonaventure's iconic place in fantasies of apocalyptic destruction. In one film, the circular rooftop actually detaches and soars off of the building like a giant frisbee into the abyss. This hotel, one commentator noted, must appeal strongly to disaster filmmakers looking for structures to destroy with digital effects. It does so because it looks computer generated, even in real life. So yes, here we are right now in the emblem of the unreal real. That was like the tragical comical part. Okay, so maybe I'm desperate for silver linings, but Jameson does offer a glimmer of hope when he writes that the Bonaventure space, quote, corresponds to a new collective practice, a new mode in which individuals move and congregate. It stands as something like an imperative to expand our sensorium to some new yet unimaginable dimensions. Okay, I can work with that. Collective practices moving into new yet unimaginable dimensions can sound utopian, right? And as Peter Sellers reminded us last night, it is fruitful to be a little bit lost. And the places of Shakespeare are, as many of you know, mobile and diverse. And when I say Shakespeare, you can put in a bracket humanities-based sites of inquiry, because we're a very capacious organization. Scholars have rocketed Shakespeare through cyberspace, have explored Shakespeare as materializing as bodies on stages or flickers of film over time and across the globe, and critiqued ways that Shakespeare surfaces in unexpected institutional and historical locations. This year, I witnessed Shakespeare in a locale that was utterly new and productively disorienting for me. Let me set the scene. A course on justice and politics in Shakespeare. 15 students sit discussing the circulation of Shakespeare's collected works by political prisoners on Robben Island, South Africa during the era of apartheid. The now famous edition in which inmates underlined favorite passages and signed their names in the margin. Many of you know this book and this history very well. As you remember, it was called the Robben Island Bible because it was disguised as a religious text covered in images of Hindu gods in order to be smuggled into the prison. My students were engrossed by the story of prison censorship and literary transgression. Noting Nelson Mandela's chosen passage, quote, "A coward dies 1,000 times before his death, but the valiant taste of death but once," one student meditated on what a good death truly meant. Another student interrupted, saying Shakespeare's words didn't matter as much as the fact that the inmates shared the same book. Quote, "It allowed them to form a community," he explained. "At least that's what happens for me. When I pass a book around, I get to really know my friends by seeing what they read and how they read." Now, the place of this discussion is central to the story. It was Stateville Maximum Security Prison near Joliet, Illinois, a prison in which inmates are lifers and are not eligible for parole. And I think I found out like 2 classes later that the student who was thinking about a good death had actually been on death row for a number of years. Despite the fact that many of these students did not complete high school on the outside, they're the most engaged students I've ever taught. They're very passionate about reading and very aspirational about the intellect. The class has taught me about racial and class inequities that have created U.S. mass incarceration. But it's also made me think freshly about scholarly concepts I thought I knew. As conversation about the Robben Island Bible revealed, for instance, I gained new perspective on how scribal communities operate in the ecology of this dystopian place. And it's a very energetic book circulation, but it operates on kind of very complicated racial and generational grounds. These students do not see education as instrumental, a path toward acquiring marketable skills. Though I have to jump in right here and interrupt myself to say that we do now have the data to prove that the humanities do offer precisely those critical job skills. So just, keep that on the radar for your students' parents, especially. For my students, classes are not even a means for parole. Some are deeply attentive to how reading offers tools for resisting what they have called the mind control of the prison. One student described very vividly and complained about the books censored at Stateville. One was called 48 Laws of Power, which is kind of a mega cult classic. Another called Behold a Pale Horse, which is a crazy conspiracy book from what I can tell. And then one, wait for it, Machiavelli's The Prince. Quote, "I heard that Shakespeare teaches a lot of what Machiavelli said," my student declared on the first day, "but in code. That's why I wanted to take this class," he continued. Well, that and the fact that the Prison Channel aired a TV series called Will. For my homework, I found out that Will is a TNT account of the Bard's early years in London as hot hipster and Catholic dissenter, with scenes soundtracked very unevenly to grunge music. But it was inspirational, it seemed. One 24-year-old student, imprisoned since he was 16, observed, as many do, that the Merchant of Venice asks, what does it mean to be human? To be humane? To be part of humanity? Quote, "When characters use terms like humanity and human," he wrote, "they sometimes seem to be just scoring points over others." Then he added a personal coda. "I guess I see my main job here as maintaining my humanity in a place that makes it really hard to do that." One elderly student confessed that thinking was his means of self-preservation. He wrote, "I haven't had a lot of school," he volunteered, "but I know what it means to read until it hurts." Now, I'm mindful of criticism that some Shakespeare in prison programs are problematically therapeutic or are premised on a sense that the bard is automatically a sense of uplift for the downtrodden. And this is not at all the experience that I've seen. My students are not putting anything on a pedestal. They are critiquing, they are analyzing, they crave intellectually difficult material, and more than anything else, they desperately want to take control over one tiny sliver of their being in a forbidding place, a fortress that is surrounded by 33-foot concrete walls, armed guard towers, and until 2 years ago, the last remaining working panopticon in the US. Literature and ideas are a precious oasis of freedom for them precisely because they allow dissent. It's perplexing to me and ironic that I am sometimes able to overcome my daily disorientation with our alien nation when I leave my customary zip code. That is, when I exit the university where I'm discouraged to hear once again that we simply must divert resources and pour them into STEM fields, and I hear myself making the same arguments over and over about how the humanities actually enable other research fields to form their research questions. Or when I leave home where NPR is narrating the latest assault that day on thought and civil society. It's when I migrate into a place so menacing that it strips people to bare forked creatures that I find a population who on their pulse believe in the humanities. Strange days indeed. I would call that the earnest idealistic part. So what is our place? Well, yes, we remain anchored to a fundamental commitment to robust humanistic inquiry. Yet as we try to accommodate the alien space that is our not-so-brave new world, I think it's more and more urgent to reorient, to bridge, and to better articulate our academic practices and their value to the public. So expanding our dialogues that we have in libraries, museums, theater festivals, high schools, prisons, social media, civic spaces, community centers, national parks, and op-ed pages, I think these do offer critical ways to stretch into new, not yet imaginable dimensions. As a young scholar, I found the SAA to be one of the few places that energized me intellectually and welcomed me warmly. And as our membership has grown and diversified, our organization is on the move in exciting new ways. We traveled into new territory last year when panelists on the Color of Membership inaugurated the Shakespeare.Association Futures Initiative in Atlanta, where we thought publicly about racial inequities in our own institution and our profession. And I mentioned in my letter to the membership in January that there was a kind of veritable tweet storm, and it was a very electrifying moment. We're moving into new spaces by experimenting with programming that can address the differential jobs held by our membership, the new nature of academic publishing, and provocative new methodologies. Of course, understanding who we are is a basic first step to any bold imaginings. So if you are hostile to surveys as much as I am, I ask you to put aside your hostility and fill out the survey that we have at the registration form. 910 of you already did, and we are taking this data very seriously to find out how we can serve the membership better. We've moved into a new place by joining with other organizations under the auspices of the ACLS so that we can heighten our impact when we speak publicly to defend core principles of academic freedom. We now support Scholars at Risk, a group that offers sanctuary to academics across the globe. Can I make one more movie reference? I was going to say, it seems better to huddle together in the line of fire. Okay, it's bad, I won't do any more. And you, my lunch audience, you promised the future mobility of our collective practices. How? Because a staggering number of you checked the little box on the registration form that said that you would like to become more involved with the SAA. So have no fear, that selfless act was recognized, and we will be tapping you into service in the years to come. How? Because you generously donated $11,000 thus far this year so that people who could not ordinarily afford to attend the conference could do so, and every penny of that money went to our travel grant fund. Hint, we gave out $25,000, so continue to spread the wealth. How? Because 20% of our seminar and workshop participants at this conference in LA are graduate students, which makes me confident that we will continue to be refreshed by emergent ideas. There's an inspiring number of early career folks who have met together at this lunch. Where is your table? Yes. I think this is key, this refreshing of our membership. In choosing the 2017 word of the year, you might have noticed that the Oxford Dictionary passed over the more tragic term newsjacking, sounds bad, or the sadly deceptive word milkshake duck. I know, go look it up, you'll find out. I never heard of it, but they optimistically embraced youthquake. Youthquake, defined as a significant cultural, political, or social change arising from the actions of young people, by the way, who were in full force last weekend nationally. The significant scholarship of our younger scholars is the SAA's Youthquake. We saw some of this on display at the brilliant panel yesterday, Next Gen Plen. We also see evidence of our outstanding doctoral research in the submissions that we get for our dissertation prize. And I'm delighted to announce the results of that competition. First place in the Leeds Barrel Dissertation Prize this year is awarded to Naomi Nandaya. Could you please come up to receive your certificate? Naomi's at Columbia University, and the title of her dissertation is Marking Blackness, Embodied Techniques of Racialization in Early Modern European Theater. So congratulations. Honorable mention goes to Heidi Craig from the University of Toronto. Heidi, could you come forth? Heidi's dissertation is entitled A Place Without a Stage, English Renaissance Drama, 1642 to 1660. This year, you might remember that the SAA partnered with the Huntington Library to establish our first short-term residential fellowship that is reserved for an SAA member. Kudos to Heather James, thank you. And I thought it was really interesting that our first winner is strikingly a graduate student. And it's Deanna Armstrong, who couldn't be here today, but I wanted us to have a round of applause. Her project is entitled appropriately Strange Times, English Renaissance Literature and the Erotics of the Clock. And Deanna's from Vanderbilt, so congratulations to her. Our first SAA Folger Fellowship will be announced later this year. I want to encourage everyone to apply for these because they are perks of your membership. While energized by the younger scholars adding their voices to our conversations, we are at the same time saddened by the loss of long-standing SAA members, most recently Barbara Hodgson, Barbara Lewalski, and earlier this year Barbara Mowat. But we remember and we honor their contributions. We're of course indebted to the people who work tirelessly behind the scenes so that the SAA can materialize almost miraculously in a new site and a new form every year. Let me first thank the people who served on the 2017 Program Committee for their brilliant and innovative work which came to fruition in Atlanta. And I'm going to ask you to stand and remain standing. Steve Mentz. See, this is where we find out if you're playing hooky. Okay, Steve, stay standing up. Lucy Monroe, Barbara Fuchs, Erica Lynn, and the chair, Natasha Korda. We need to thank these people. They brought us the Shakespearean Futures Initiative and really thought outside the box, so thank you so much for your work. The astounding array of seminars and panels in LA are the creative handiwork of the superb 2018 Program Committee, so I'm laying out a virtual red carpet here, and I would like to ask you to stand. Anston Busman, stay standing, Anston. Michelle Dowd, Farah Kareem Cooper, Carla Mazio, and Chair Heidi Brayman. So let's all give them a huge round of applause for the work that they've done to make this conference possible. This year, the SAA took up the daunting task of searching for a new home and a new executive director. And we have impossibly jumbo-sized shoes to fill in that regard, obviously. But I want to present kind of virtual Academy Award to the remarkable Rebecca Bushnell, who couldn't be here today, but who chaired the search committee. And she's going to share that Academy Award with her committee, and I'd like you to stand and remain standing. Jean Howard, Jean, Catherine Eggert, Ian Smith, Valerie Traub, it's not here, Vin Nardizzi, Ayanna Thompson, and Bill Carroll. Really, we thank you so much for the labor that you put in. If you see these folks in the hallway, bow down to them repeatedly. The happy result of their labors is the appointment of incoming Executive Director Karen Raber, whose equestrian-oriented talk last year on the Queer Natures Plenary so dazzled us and so brought out the horse fantasies we didn't know that we had. Professor of English at the University of Mississippi, Karen is someone whose scholarly contributions to early modern studies, animal studies, eco-studies, gender studies, Shakespeare studies, the ontology of meat studies needs no introduction. We feel fortunate indeed to have Karen navigating the SAA as it goes in new places, and we want her to stand and welcome her warmly. Sharon joins a talented SAA staff who undertake Herculean labors invisibly throughout the year, and many of these are very thankless labors. And so I want to create a kind of virtual Hollywood stars on the pavement right here for Assistant Director Beatrice Lay. Beatrice, please stand. For Program Manager Claire Mulligan. And Program Assistant Donna Evan Kesseth. Thank you so much for what you do behind the scenes. And one name remains to be spoken. It's absolutely impossible, of course, to find words to thank Lena Orlin for her dedicated service to the SAA. For over 2 decades, Lena has stewarded our organization superbly, creating a legacy that will profit us and will profit future members for decades to come. So I'd like to have a toast in honor of Lena. And Lena, could you stand? This is my imaginary glass, so to Lena Orlin. But wait. I must summon to the podium Peter Holland, who has an important scholarly announcement to make, one that will astonish Shakespeareans here and across the world. That is astonishing that Peter Holland found that mask and has recovered it for all eternity. So let's thank him for his service. Lady Orlina seems to already have so many crowns, but Lena, one more, which is to combine 2 of your interests, baseball and Shakespeare. So one more crown for you to wear. Academy Award for Lifetime SAA Achievement. So thank you. And now the moment that we have all been waiting for. Okay, it's just the moment that I've been waiting for. I get to utter a performative speech act that will depose myself. And here it goes. Thus have I, Wall, my part discharged so. And being done, thus Wall away doth go. I now invite to the podium for her coronation your new SAA president, the magnificent, the talented, Ayanna Thompson. I'm going to give you the microphone and I'm going to say, hey, congratulations. Nervous about that talk?
Oh, all right. So I have just a few words and then we should enjoy ourselves. This year's conference has been supported by our members who shook the trees for funding. Our local arrangements chair, Julia Lupton, Gina Bloom, David Bridle, Massimo Cavolella, Helen Deutsch, Fran Dolan, Enda Duffy, Lowell Gallagher, Steve Hindle, Sean Kalin, Eileen Klink, Jeffrey Knapp, Stephen Maxwell, Amber Miller, Janera Padilla, Eric Rasmussen, Bruce Smith, Gary Totten, and Matthew Wickman. Thank you all for finding funding for us. And although I know it's not a surprise, I'm supposed to announce the location for next year's conference, which is our 47th and will be in Washington, D.C. Yay! And those who are laboring hard right now to plan next year's conference are Ruben Espinosa, Heather Hirschfeld, Jonathan Hope, Tiffany Worth, Will West, and Chair Erica Lynn. Thank you all. And last but not least, I am to announce the new trustees, although you already know who they are, but it's amazing to have them at the table. Joyce McDonald, Ruben Espinosa, and the incoming Vice President, Catherine Rowe. That's it. Oh, and if you don't know already, the dance is free.